The Evans family's annual dinner at Lusk was always a showcase of subtle judgment and thinly veiled criticism. Crystal glasses chimed as my sister Victoria commanded attention, her diamond bracelet catching every glint of light with each exaggerated motion. Then, turning to our parents, she announced, "Sterling Corp stock jumped another 20% after my proposal. The board practically begged me to become CFO." She shot me that familiar, condescending smile. "And you, Emma? Still manning the front desk at that tiny investment firm?" I lifted my water glass, ignoring the silent, disappointed looks my parents exchanged. My simple black blazer felt deliberately modest compared to their designer attire. Just as I intended. "Actually," I said softly, "I'm an executive assistant now." Victoria's laugh rang out, drawing curious glances. "Oh, sweetie. Still running errands for the big bosses? With your economics degree, you could have aimed higher. Remember when we interned at Sterling? I became CEO, and you?" She gestured vaguely at my understated outfit. "Victoria is accomplishing remarkable things," Dad interjected, pride evident in his tone. "Sterling Corp is thriving under her guidance, they're even considering expansion into Asia." I nodded, discreetly checking my phone. A tiny smile tugged at my lips. Acquisition complete. Press release scheduled, 8 p.m. "Emma, put that away," Mom chided. "Just because you're technically a secretary doesn't mean you're on call at family dinner." "Sorry," I murmured, noting the time, 7:55 p.m. Victoria reached across the table to pat my hand. "I could always put in a good word at Sterling. Maybe get you something more challenging than answering phones." "That's very kind," I replied, sipping water. "How's Sterling doing this quarter?" "Phenomenal," she said, preening. "We're about to announce our best quarter ever. The CEO couldn't be happier with my work." "And speaking of work," Dad added, "your sister's in Financial Monthly, Rising Stars Under 40. When was the last time you read a finance magazine, Emma?" "This morning," I said, glancing at my phone, 7:58 p.m. Victoria scoffed. "Reading your boss's calendar isn't exactly financial literature, darling." "I was reviewing acquisition reports," I said quietly. "Acquisitions?" she scoffed. "You probably just photocopy the documents your boss hands you." My phone buzzed one final time. Wall Street Journal alert, posting now. "I actually know quite a lot about acquisitions," I said, pulling a thick manila envelope from my briefcase. "Especially the one that closed 20 seconds ago." "Emma," Mom sighed, "please don't try to outshine your sister." Victoria's phone buzzed just as I slid the envelope across the table. She glanced at it, then froze, her manicured hand trembling. That can't be right," she whispered, staring at the screen. "What is it?" Dad asked, grabbing his own phone. "The Wall Street Journal," she stammered. "It says Atlantic Global just acquired Sterling Corp, but that's impossible. We would have heard." "Check the CEO's name," I said quietly. Victoria's eyes widened as she read aloud. Atlantic Global CEO Emma Evans, 32, becomes youngest woman to complete major banking acquisition. Crystal glasses rattled as her hands slammed the table. "You're the new boss," I said, opening the envelope. "Actually, former boss. Your termination papers are right here. Effective immediately." Silence fell like a weight, broken only by the faint clinking of cutlery from neighboring tables. Victoria's face went from pale shock to furious red as she frantically scrolled through her phone. "Atlantic Global," Dad muttered, adjusting his glasses, disbelief etched across his face. He pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, eyes scanning the headline. Private Banking Acquisition of the Year, $8.2 billion deal led by CEO Emma Evans. His jaw dropped. I straightened my black blazer, simple, but Armani, something they'd never noticed. Remember when Victoria was promoted to CFO at Sterling? That same month, I joined Atlantic Global's board at the youngest age in company history. Last year, I became CEO. Mom froze, wine glass midair. But, you're a secretary, she stammered. No, I said calmly. I was analyzing Sterling from the inside. The best insight comes from hands-on experience. Victoria's eyes narrowed. And you, spied on us? I call it due diligence, I replied. Your employees are very talkative around the coffee girl, especially when discussing creative accounting and inflated quarterly reports. Those expansions into Asia you bragged about? The numbers didn't check out. Neither did your last 3 quarterly results. Victoria gripped her phone tightly. How dare you? I built Sterling's finance division from nothing. I leaned forward, pulling more documents from my briefcase. Would you like to go over the offshore accounts or the misreported earnings that conveniently coincided with your performance bonuses? Dad reached for the papers, but I held them firmly. Those are for the SEC now. Mom's face turned pale. The SEC? Don't worry, I said, glancing at my watch. The press release only highlights the acquisition. The audit will be handled quietly. Victoria jumped to her feet, chair screeching against the floor. You can't do this. I'm your sister. Sit down, I said softly. You're making a scene. A scene? She laughed, hysteria creeping into her voice. You've ruined my career. You ruined your own career, I corrected. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Though I'll admit, I added with a faint smile, buying your company was especially satisfying. Dad opened his mouth to intervene, but I cut him off. The deal is final. Sterling Corporation is now part of Atlantic Global. And your accounting practices are under review by our forensic team. My phone buzzed, a reminder from my real assistant, board meeting in 1 hour. Victoria sank back, mascara streaked, tears forming. How long? She whispered. How long have you been planning this? I thought of every family dinner, every mocking Christmas party, every time she reminded everyone she was the successful one. Remember 5 years ago when you told everyone I was wasting my potential as a bank teller? I closed my first billion-dollar acquisition that week. Mom's wine glass tipped, red spreading across the white tablecloth like a warning. All this time, I've been running the country's 3rd largest private banking group, I said. After today, we move up to 2nd. The maitre d' appeared, glancing nervously at the stain. I handed him my black corporate card. Dinner's on me, I said, rising. Consider it a severance package. 3 days later, I stood in my corner office on the 60th floor of Atlantic Global Tower, Manhattan glittering beneath me. The Wall Street Journal sat on my desk, banking's silent queen, how Emma Evans built a financial empire in secret. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Miss Evans, your sister is here. Victoria stepped in, a shadow of the polished CFO she had been. Designer suit replaced with casual wear, makeup gone. Security let me up, she said quietly. Though I guess my credentials mean nothing now. I motioned toward the leather chairs opposite my desk. The forensic audit is finished, I said calmly, noting her voice tremble slightly. We uncovered everything, I continued, sliding a folder across the desk, the manipulated earnings reports, offshore accounts, kickbacks from Asian investors. I snapped it shut. The SEC is very interested. Victoria's shoulders sagged. Are you pressing charges? That's up to you, I replied, leaning back. I can handle this internally. If you fully cooperate and return all ill-gotten bonuses, you protect yourself. She blinked, confused. Why would you do that? I studied her carefully. Because watching you ruin yourself wouldn't be satisfying. This way, you get to live with knowing how badly you misjudged me. My phone buzzed, Asian markets opening. Victoria noticed the alert and let out a bitter laugh. All those times I boasted about Sterling's global reach, she said, gesturing vaguely around my office, and you were quietly running an international financial empire? You never asked, I said simply. You were too busy insisting I was a failure, just a secretary. It never occurred to you that I might be more. Mom and Dad haven't stopped crying, she murmured. Dad's golf buddies keep asking about the secret billionaire daughter they never knew existed. Karma works in strange ways. I poured 2 glasses of water, handing one to her. Want to know when I decided to buy Sterling? She accepted the glass. Last Christmas, when you announced your promotion to CFO by giving me that book, moving up from the reception desk. I smiled faintly. I was in the middle of negotiating a merger with Swiss Global Bank. Her hand trembled, spilling a few drops. I remember. You said you had to leave early for a meeting. Board meeting in Geneva, I corrected. I closed the deal at midnight and returned in time for dinner. Meanwhile, you spent the evening explaining basic finance to me. A fresh tear slid down her cheek. I was so awful to you, she whispered. You were, I agreed. But now you have a choice. Sign this cooperation agreement, return the money, and start over, or face the SEC alone. She stared at the document I pushed across the desk. What happens if I sign? You'll be barred from executive roles for 5 years, I said. But I've arranged a position in our Singapore office, middle management. A chance to succeed legitimately this time. Why help me at all? I walked to the window, gazing out over the empire I'd built. Because true power isn't about destroying someone. It's about having the power to destroy, and choosing not to. My phone buzzed again, morning board meeting time. Victoria rose, clutching the signed agreement. I'll never underestimate you again, she said softly. No, I said. You won't. As she left, I adjusted my black blazer, the same one they mocked at dinner. My assistant entered, carrying the morning reports. The Sterling transition is ahead of schedule, she reported. And the family banking details you requested. I smiled faintly. Move their accounts to our premium service. Waive all fees. Very generous, she observed. No, I said, lifting the Wall Street Journal with my photo on the cover. Just smart business. Success isn't only about money, it's about earning respect. Through the glass walls, I watched Victoria head to the elevators, shoulders hunched. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't crushing your rivals, it's rising so far above them they're forced to look up. The morning sun caught my nameplate, Emma Evans C., Atlantic Global Banking. Beneath it sat a single personal item, a worn business card, faded from years of carrying it, Emma Evans, reception desk. A reminder that every empire starts somewhere, and that the finest revenge is living your best life.